Jingle Bells, Homework Smells by Diane DeGroat. To build, wherever you are. Mrs. Boyd was writing something on the board, but Gilbert didn't notice. It was hard to think about schoolwork when it was almost Christmas. Instead, Gilbert thought about what Santa might bring him. He thought about having a whole week off from school to play. He didn't want to think about spelling or math or Gilbert, Mrs. Bird called. Please pay attention. Gilbert turned and saw that everyone had moved to the story corner. Everyone except Gilbert. He stumbled out of his chair and quickly found a spot between Patty and Frank. He would have to try harder to pay attention. When everyone was settled, Mrs. Bird read a story about a snowman that came to life. Gilbert wished he could make his own snowman, but it hadn't snowed in a long time. He hoped it would snow by Christmas. He had asked Santa to bring him a brand new red racer speed sled. His old sled had broken last year when Lewis crashed into it on Daredevil Hill. When Mrs. Bird finished the story, she said, "The snowman is the main character. For homework, I'd like you all to make a picture of a character from your favorite book. We can talk about the books and the characters on Monday." Lewis groaned about getting homework over the weekend. He didn't like to read and he didn't like to draw, especially on a weekend. Gilbert liked to read and draw, and all afternoon he tried to think of which book he liked best. Mother was baking cookies when he got home, and Gilbert wanted to help decorate them. Do you have any homework to do? She asked. I can do it later, Gilbert said. But later he watched a holiday special on TV. He wasn't worried because he still had the whole weekend to do his homework. On Saturday morning, Gilbert looked through his bookshelf for a favorite character to draw. The doorbell rang, and Patty asked if Gilbert wanted to go ice skating. I didn't do my homework yet, Gilbert said. I'm doing mine tomorrow, Patty told him. Gilbert thought for a second and then said, I guess I can do mine tomorrow too. And off he went to skate with his friends. After dinner, they hung the decorations and drank hot cocoa. Father read The Night Before Christmas, and Gilbert couldn't wait until Santa came. He couldn't think about anything else except flying down Daredevil Hill with his new red racer speed sled. It was snowing when Gilbert got up on Monday morning. He hopped up and down with excitement. After school, he could make a snowman. Of course, he would do his homework first. Homework! Gilbert had forgotten to do his homework. He hadn't chosen a book or drawn a character. Gilbert had never forgotten to do his homework before. Mrs. Bird always gave him a happy face sticker for doing good work. He wasn't going to get a happy face sticker today. His stomach began to hurt. I don't feel good, he said to Mother when he went downstairs. I can't go to school today. Mother felt Gilbert's forehead. She said, you'll have to stay in bed then, and you won't be able to play in the snow. Gilbert wanted very much to play in the snow. I'll feel better later, he said. I just can't go to school. And why is that? Mother asked. Gilbert said quietly, I didn't do my homework. Oh dear, said Mother. You should have done it when you got home from school on Friday. Gilbert whined, but I had to decorate the cookies on Friday, and I had to go ice skating on Saturday. And yesterday, we had to get the tree, and Lola took forever picking one out. I didn't have time to do my homework. Mother said, you'll still have to go to school, Gilbert. You'll have to tell Mrs. Bird that you didn't do your homework. She made some warm oatmeal with extra honey, but Gilbert didn't eat it. He was upset because he couldn't stay home. He finally put on his coat and boots and slowly walked to school. Patty met him on the playground. "What's wrong, Gilbert?" she asked when she saw his face. Gilbert said, "You shouldn't have asked me to go skating on Saturday. I didn't have time to do my homework." "I did mine," Patty said. Suddenly, a snowball flew right past Gilbert's ear. "Snowball fight," Lewis said as he caught up to him. "Quit it," Gilbert snapped. "I'm not playing." "Gilbert didn't do his homework," Patty explained. "We had homework?" Lewis asked. Lewis always forgot to do his homework. And now Gilbert was just as bad as Lewis. "We were supposed to draw a character, like the snowman in Mrs. Bird's book," Patty said. "I made a picture of Curious George, see?" She held up the picture and then ran inside to show Mrs. Bird. "I'd rather make a real snowman," Lewis said. "It's more fun than drawing one." He scooped up a handful of snow and packed it into a big ball, singing, "Jingle bells, homework smells, teacher is a meanie." Gilbert didn't want to go inside either, and he began rolling his own snowball. That gave him an idea that he would need Lewis's help to make it all work. Gilbert and Lewis ran into the classroom on the last bow. They had just sat down when Mrs. Bird asked everyone to talk about the characters they'd made. Gilbert sank into his seat, hoping that Mrs. Bird wouldn't call on him. He wasn't sure if his idea would work after all. Frank raised his hand and showed his drawing of the cat in the hat. Patty showed everyone her Curious George. Everyone had drawn a character except Gilbert and Lewis. "Oh my," Mrs. Bird said. "I'm surprised at you, Gilbert." She didn't say, "I'm surprised at you, Lewis." "Wait," Lewis said. "We didn't make a character, see?" He pointed to the window and everyone turned to look. A snowman was looking back at them, a snowman with a red hat and mittens. "Gilbert and I made the character from the book you read to us, but we made a real one instead of a drawing." He sounded proud that he had actually done his homework for once, even if it was Gilbert's idea. Mrs. Bird looked at Gilbert slouching in his seat. She said, "Since it took two of you to do the assignment, I will give you half a happy face each for today." Gilbert had never gotten a half happy face before. He was disappointed. Lewis had never gotten half a happy face before, and he was happy. Then Mrs. Bird added, "You can get the other half if you do the assignment for tomorrow." When Gilbert got home, he didn't go skating or play in the snow or watch TV. Instead, he drew his favorite character. And the next day, there was a happy face on Gilbert's homework and a smile on Gilbert, too. The